A hit and run leaves an 88-year-old woman dead.
I heard this bang.
A neighbor tells us what he saw after rushing to the scene. A ballooning city government draws criticism.
There's a serious lack of efficiency.
An expert weighs in on how it could be impacting the services you rely on.
This is a failure of leadership.
New insight to deleted text messages on the state school superintendent's work phone. What Fox 45 News Project Baltimore uncovered that have some calling for him to step down.
And then he just unloaded everything in the magazine.
A father relives the terrifying moments of the deadly shooting in a Baltimore County sky zone. The impact it left behind on him and his family.
We were trapped.
A survivor of the deadly Stricker Street fire.
I thought at that time this was it for me.
The former firefighter recalls the day that changed his life and how he is fighting to prevent more tragedies like this.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubalik. High is off tonight. Fox 45 News is pressing your elected leaders on transparency within City Hall. As Baltimore's government continues to expand, taxpayers voice their concerns about where their money is going. Plus, Mayor Scott involved in a heated exchange with a resident this week over funding for safe streets.
I think we have the right to understand and know better where and how our money is spent.
But what we are not going to do is allow these right-wing people to come in and try to tear down folks who have changed their life and want to make their neighborhood a better place.
Mackenzie Frost is digging into those transparency concerns with safe streets, but our team coverage begins with Jeff Abel, investigating why the mayor's staff has more than doubled in size over the past 8 years, despite a decline in Baltimore's population. Jeff?
That's right. The population in this city may be dwindling, but that hasn't slowed the growth at the mayor's office, where staff and salaries are hitting historic highs. On the tough streets of the city, where problems are growing and complaints are mounting, patience with City Hall is running thin.
I can't get a call back from Brandon.
And it's not because the mayor is short-staffed. It turns out the mayor's office has become the largest mayor's office in this city's history. 7 years ago, the mayor's office had a staff of 39 full-time employees and a budget of $5.2 million. Today, however, the mayor's staff has soared to 103 full-time employees and a budget of $17.1 million, 3 times the budget of just 7 years ago.
City government keeps growing and growing and growing while the population keeps declining.
Eurypsy Morgan leads a watchdog group and says the ballooning staff at the mayor's office points to one glaring problem.
There's a serious lack of efficiency. When the people who are there cannot do the job or are unable to do the job, the answer isn't to just hire more people.
It's very frustrating.
At a City Hall budget hearing 2 months ago, council members questioned why the mayor's staffers and their salaries keep expanding.
Commonplace in this administration where individuals are being hired and making $50,000+ more than their predecessor. And that is not an acceptable, that's not okay.
We haven't done a formal assessment.
City Manager Faith Leach says the historic staff size at the mayor's office is due in part on the addition of 13 new development positions, ones that come with 6-figure salaries.
We want to recruit talented people to manage large-scale infrastructure projects for the city of Baltimore. We're going to have to pay them over $100,000 to do it.
City government works for the people, not the other way around. It isn't intended for people to provide, lifetime pensions and lifetime jobs for people. It's to provide services.
Well, with 103 now full-time employees, this city's mayor's office now outpaces those offices of similar size in those similar offices in much larger cities. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Well, Fox 45 News also investigating payroll concerns surrounding the mayor's office. The Board of Estimates recently approved a new communications position with a salary of more than $200,000. Mayor Scott's former chief of staff, Chezia Kager, left her post in May, making $225,000. But she is still on the payroll at $160,000 as a special assistant. City Council President Nick Mosby says he's not aware of what that role entails, saying there needs to be more communication about movement within the mayor's office.
We've talked to the administration and particularly the CA, Faith Leach, about communication and ensuring that the council's up to date. You know, obviously we never want to learn stuff through the media, and it's concerning.
Fox 45 News also found reason to believe Kager didn't take a pay cut when she moved to her new role. We asked the mayor's office about her compensation in June, and we were told we would hear back at a later date. So far, we have not received a response. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Baltimore city government has gotten too big? So far, 84% of people who voted say yes. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Over transparency within the Safe Streets program during the city's most recent public comment meeting. He defended the program, leading to a tense exchange with the Baltimore taxpayer. Mackenzie Frost has that story.
The mayor says there's complete transparency when it comes to the Safe Streets program and how the nonprofits spend the money. But through our investigation, we know that hasn't always been the case.
And welcome to Mayor Scott and Commissioners Burley Community Engagement Session.
Mayor Brandon Scott and Acting Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley listening to community members all over Baltimore before City Council votes on Worley's confirmation. One question this week directed at Worley was about how the police department and Safe Streets can better work together to make Charm City safer.
Regardless of whether or not the organization is a nonprofit.
Mayor Brandon Scott taking the question instead and quick to push back on transparency concerns.
We have to understand that there's always transparency with these programs. The monies that we spend on Safe Streets is out there for anybody to see. But what we are not going to do is allow these right-wing people to come in and try to tear down folks who have changed their life and want to make their neighborhood a better place.
I reject that characterization. None of us wants anyone to be hurt, harmed, certainly not killed or murdered,
Absolutely.
Whether it's Safe Streets or anyone else. I'm speaking again as a taxpayer, not a right-wing media person.
Oh, not you. You know what I'm talking
I don't
about.
represent any media company or corporation. I do represent, or at least personally represent, a taxpayer, a homeowner, a citizen, and I think we have the right to understand and know better where and how our money is spent.
Mayor Scott is right about nonprofits showing how some money is spent, but every dollar is not accounted for on the annual reports produced.
This is a very superficial look at their finances.
Taxpayer advocate David Williams says the 990 financial form given to the federal government is not an audit of the organization's finances, doesn't go into detail, and often lags by a year or more on information.
While a 990 is required by the IRS and is a good snapshot of the organization, it doesn't tell the whole story. And that's why we should be suspect of money going through nonprofits, is because their finances are hidden in a 990, and there's a delayed process for getting the financial information from a nonprofit.
While the city requires public record requests to hand over the contracts with LifeBridge and Catholic Charities to operate the Safe Streets sites, the details of the contracts indicate just how in control of the program City Hall really is. The nonprofits must get permission from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement for any flyer for Safe Streets events or comments given to the media. And details of how every penny is spent are not included. For some in the community, the information provided by the city simply is not enough.
We want to see what the return on investment, so to speak, what the return on investment is, and we want to know, again, is it working? Not just from Johns Hopkins studies. We want a better representation, we want better information, and we want to have transparency.
So I guess there is nothing secret about Safe Streets.
But the city has gone to great lengths to shield some information from the public. We still don't know who trains the Safe Streets workers, what their training entails, and how exactly Catholic Charities and LifeBridge spend the millions of dollars given to them by the city.
This is gaslighting when he says that we do know where the money is being spent. The mayor is wrong.
Mayor Scott continues to say that City Hall believes it's important to keep the names of the Safe Streets workers private to protect their safety. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And residents aren't the only ones voicing issues about Safe Streets transparency. Fox 45 News also heard from City Council members saying funding for MONSE, which oversees the violence intervention program, should be paused until we learn more about how the group operates.
Right now, I think that until we start to see transparency in data, I think that money should be held to a halt.
Fox 45 News will continue to press city leaders for transparency. Our comprehensive reporting on the questions facing Safe Streets available right now at foxbaltimore.com. This is a sad story. An 88-year-old woman killed in a hit and run this week along Liberty Heights Avenue, reigniting a sense of lawlessness for some nearby residents. Fox 45's Keith Daniels spoke to a man who says he heard the crash. He joins us live with an update. How terrible for this man, too, to hear this.
Absolutely, Mary. Now, police have released photos of what that suspect vehicle looks like. The driver involved in that deadly shooting still on the loose. Meantime, an 87-year-old man with what he saw and what he feels. Clarence Hall is sitting on the front porch of his home on Galloway Avenue, just a few feet away from where it happened.
I was riding there working on my car.
Detailing now those moments Monday when a noise sent him searching for the source.
I heard this bang. I knew it was right there, so I ran around here and looked down there. I could not see anything.
He jumped in his car, rode to the intersection of Callaway and Liberty Heights Avenue.
Got out, and there was a car over on the other side over there. It looked like it run into that pole.
Police say inside that vehicle was 88-year-old Barbara Logan, taken to the hospital where she died later, the victim of a hit and run. Investigators say Logan, who lived close by, had the green light, was driving through the intersection when the driver of a white Ford F-150 flatbed truck, look here, similar to this one, ran the red light, colliding with Logan's car, and kept going. Hall.
So was the lady in their car died?
Calling what happened another seemingly act of lawlessness in the city.
There's so much stuff going on in the city that shooting, that's the problem I got. How come there's so many guns out here? Are they catching anybody? Are they locking up anybody?
With that said, I want to thank you all for coming out, and we'll get right to the questions.
Familiar questions Acting Police Commissioner Rich Worley faced this week at a community meeting not far from Hall's home. Worley pressed about the number of shootings and homicides happening in Baltimore.
Our violent crime is actually down. Homicides are down and shootings are down. As of today, we have 54 less homicide victims than we had last year, but that's still too many.
Now, a search for the driver of a white flatbed truck wanted in connection with a hit and run that cost an 88-year-old woman her life.
That's terrible. So I just hope they find whoever did it.
Well, police say the suspect vehicle, that white Ford F-150 flatbed, should have front-end damage from that crash. They say if you have any information about this case, call 911. We're live tonight at City Police Headquarters. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
We are looking forward to another beautiful summer day ahead of us tomorrow. We've got a nice mix of sun and clouds through the afternoon, and it's going to be warm but not as humid again. So high temperatures will warm through the 80s and end up in the mid-80s by the end of the day. After that, I am tracking a little weather maker. I'll explain exactly when that arrives and what our rain chances look like from that system in just a couple of minutes. Mary?
Amy, thank you. A Baltimore County father reliving some terrifying moments, telling Fox 45 News what happened when a man opened fire in a trampoline park, killing another person in front of children.
He just unloaded everything in the magazine. I obviously had nothing. You can't fight a gun with, I had a diaper bag, my son. My focus was my children, and I just wanted to get them out.
Coming up at 10:30, how his family and the community trying to move forward. And coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, Fox 45 News sits down with the firefighter who made it out of that deadly Stricker Street fire, what he's demanding from the city after more than a year of long and painful recovery. Thieves steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from Radcliffe Jewelers in Pikesville in a smash and grab robbery. Why neighbors say the price the community could pay is even higher. And we are learning more about text messages deleted from the state superintendent of schools' cell phone. The latest on the Project Baltimore investigation is coming up right after the break. Tonight, we are learning more about the 98 text messages deleted from the state superintendent of schools' cell phone. And as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, it's leading some to say Mohammed Chowdhury should consider resigning.
Most people would take a look at this circumstance and say it's a cover-up.
Adam Andrzejewski is the founder of OpenTheBooks.com, a nonpartisan government watchdog group that last year filed 50,000 public records requests across all 50 states concerning how your tax dollars are spent.
This is a failure of leadership.
Andrzejewski is a public records expert.
Yes.
But he has never seen anything like this. 98 text messages, each one deleted from the taxpayer-funded cell phone of Maryland's top education official, State Superintendent Mohammed Chowdhury. And what Project Baltimore just learned about these deleted text messages, Andrzejewski says, is a big problem.
The superintendent should consider resigning his position.
On Monday, the State Board of Education issued this statement on its website concerning the text messages. The reason they're gone is because your superintendent's cell phone was set to automatically delete text messages after just 30 days.
It's all his text. It's not just your 98 text. It's every text. It's all the text that he's using to conduct state business.
We filed our initial public records request on April 10th. At that time, according to the metadata for the 98 text messages, 12 of them were not yet 30 days old. According to state law, as soon as we filed this public records request, at least these 12 messages should have been preserved. But they were not. They were deleted anyway. A problem that is addressed in this statement. Quote, the state board recognizes that text messages cannot be deliberately deleted after they are requested as part of a Public Information Act request.
This needs to be investigated immediately as record concealment or destruction of the public record. So those records belong to the people.
Project Baltimore, a few weeks ago, received the metadata for these 98 text messages sent or received by the superintendent. We filed a public records request for them on April 10th because we believe they could further shed light on why the state changed how it reports test scores of low-performing schools, which made far less information about those schools available to taxpayers and parents. That decision was made after FOX45 broke the story that 23 schools in Baltimore City had 0 students among those tested who scored proficient in math in 2022. In its statement, the Board of Education broke down Chowdhury's text messages this way. 2 were to administrative employees. 3 were personal numbers. 4 were with the director of the Center for School Safety. 24 were with another public official's personal number, and 62 were told were spam.
The people in Maryland own those records, they paid for the creation of those records, and they need to be able to see those records.
According to Maryland law, every government agency, at least once every 2 years, must review its document retention policy, which guides public officials on what records should be preserved and for how long. But the State Department of Education's policy has not been updated since 2006. The last time MSDE's record retention policy was updated, 17 years ago, the iPhone had not yet been invented. This policy doesn't even mention text messages. As a result of FOX45's reporting, the board said it will work with the state archives to determine how best to address text messages moving forward. But Andrzejewski said, it doesn't matter because the superintendent was using a taxpayer-funded cell phone to conduct taxpayer-funded business. He says those messages should not have been deleted.
He didn't want to turn over information about how he was making decisions on what student test scores to post in the worst performing schools. That the victims here are students trapped in those failing schools and their families.
If there were to be an investigation of the state superintendent's deleted text messages, it would most likely come from the Attorney General's office. So we sent the AG's office an email asking for comment, and we received a reply that simply said, the Attorney General does not confirm or deny the existence of an investigation. We will stay on this rapidly developing story and have more in the coming days. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
$700,000 in jewelry stolen from a Pikesville business. The latest on the investigation as employees are on edge.
And our dry, sunny stretch will continue with one exception. I am tracking a little weather maker late tomorrow night. I'll explain exactly what that means for our rain and storm chances and our temperatures heading into the weekend in a couple of minutes.
And as we head to break, a live look over the Inner Harbor. Looks like a nice night out there tonight. We'll be right back. Baltimore County Police looking for a group of suspects who stole more than $700,000 worth of merchandise after crashing a van into Radcliffe Jewelers in Pikesville. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live with a look at how this all unfolded and why other local businesses are sounding the alarm tonight. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary, like you said, Baltimore County Police say suspects crashed a van into this building. You can see the wood where the door once stood, and Baltimore County Police say they left a big clue behind.
Just after 2:30 Wednesday morning in Pikesville.
Commercial alarm at Radcliffe Jewelers, 1848 Ricestown Road, 1848 Ricestown.
A van crashing into Radcliffe Jewelers. The thieves stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars in merchandise in and out before police could get there.
First floor is clear. We're moving to the second floor.
According to Baltimore County Police, the thieves came prepared for a quick getaway.
The Ford Econoline van was actually still there. The suspects fled in a second vehicle that was actually parked at the location as well.
Baltimore County Police confirming that van was stolen, and according to police audio,
Contract registered to a business, 844 Roundview Road, Baltimore City.
Possibly stolen out of Baltimore City. No arrests have been made, and how many people are responsible still unknown.
We're in a pretty nice area. You don't really like to see that kind of stuff happen.
Brady Benton works next door to Radcliffe's and was surprised by what he saw coming into work.
You could tell somebody broke in some way, shape, or form, and after looking a little further, you could tell it was a lot of force with a car to get into their buildings.
Benton is concerned the cost of the smash and grab goes beyond just what these thieves got away with.
And it's really just unfortunate for not only the people who work here, but the owners and everybody else who comes to frequent this little shopping center. We really don't look forward to seeing how that affects everybody here going forward.
And again, according to Baltimore County Police, around $700,000 worth of merchandise was taken. And this is not the first time this store was targeted. Back in 2018, it was robbed in broad daylight. For now, we're live in Pikesville. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
I thought at that time this was it for me.
Ahead at 10:30, the surviving firefighter in the Stricker Street fire describes the tragic moments inside a burning vacant home, how he made it out, and an update on his ongoing recovery.
I obviously had nothing. You can't fight a gun with, I had a diaper bag, my son.
And a father inside Sky Zone during that deadly shooting says he made a split-second decision to escape. Fox 45 News shares his description of the Trampoline Park shootout. Here's a look at our three big stories at 10:30. The surviving firefighter in the deadly Stricker Street fire shares his story with Fox 45 News. His long road to recovery and the changes he wants to see from city leaders. Security cameras expected to go up along the Ma and Pa Trail in Harford County more than a week after a murdered woman's body was found. Fox 45 News asks residents how they feel about the extra security. And a first-hand account of the deadly Sky Zone shooting in Timonium over the weekend from a man inside the trampoline park when bullets began to fly. We begin there. A Baltimore County dad says instincts kicked in to protect his children during the chaos. Fox 45's Amy Simpson shares his somber account of what went down Saturday night.
This Baltimore County dad says his senses are still heightened, having yet to come down from the shock of what his family witnessed Saturday night.
I haven't really settled in to normalcy.
David Locke says he was just looking to have some fun with his kids after a long week.
It's usually packed. I mean, we've been going there for years.
Saying they're frequent flyers at Sky Zone Trampoline Park.
In the past 4 years, between birthday parties, I would say at least 60. I get a membership every year.
Locke said he was sitting in the main trampoline area with his 14-month-old son, having just sent his 9-year-old daughter back out to play, when he said the sound of music and laughter made way for 2 popping sounds.
And I looked to my left, immediate left, and that's when I realized it was not firecrackers or balloons.
Locke then described seeing a man in the nearby foam pit, another man with a black and silver gun standing over him.
And then he just unloaded everything in the magazine.
For this dad, it was fight or flight.
I obviously had nothing. You can't fight a gun with, I had a diaper bag, my son.
Turning and running, collecting his daughter and getting out of there.
I don't know how I would feel if something happened to one of my kids.
Charging documents now reveal 30-year-old Quentin Walker was visiting his daughter at the trampoline park before getting into that violent and deadly encounter with his ex-wife's boyfriend. Walker later turned himself into police, now behind bars and charged with murder.
My focus was my children, and I just wanted to get them out.
But to this dad, at the time, he had no way to know it was a domestic altercation.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't look over my shoulder. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if he was reloading. I just know he emptied everything and I wasn't sticking around.
Witnessing the violence, leading to what he called some very adult conversations with his 9-year-old.
And all these children, their innocence is gone.
Conversations likely happening in other households too.
A lot of families are having this hard conversation. A lot of kids, unfortunately, saw things that they should have never seen.
Locke says he's not sure if or when his family will return to the trampoline park, now reevaluating plans to visit the fair and be in a large crowd.
It seems like people aren't afraid anymore. It just seems like the thing in people's head would stop them from maybe doing something or thinking like there's some consequences. I feel like some people, it doesn't exist.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
The accused shooter was denied bond by a Baltimore County judge this week. He is scheduled to be back in front of that judge on the murder charge in early September. Well, cameras are going to be installed along the Monpaw Trail in Bel Air 10 days after the body of 37-year-old Rachel Morin was found on the trail. Harford County Executive Bob Castley says his office is working as fast as it can to get these cameras up, hoping they will bring a sense of safety back to the trail.
We don't want to allow evil to triumph and to drive folks away from this incredible asset.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
It provides an extra layer of security and safety.
In the meantime, increased patrols are still out on the trail. No suspect has been named in the investigation, but the Harford County Sheriff's Office has received at least 300 tips so far. Howard County Police say they have located an inmate who went missing this morning. Police say 38-year-old Randy Morris went missing in the Jessup area around 8:30. He was located just before 6 tonight. Anne Arundel County Police and Maryland State Police also helped with that search. Tonight, Fox 45 News is learning the 16-year-old killed in a double shooting Monday night was a student at Digital Harbor High School. Police believe it was a drive-by shooting near Johns Hopkins Hospital. A 26-year-old was also shot. Friends of 16-year-old Bryson Hudson shared that picture of him. Hudson is the 13th juvenile killed so far this year in Baltimore. And now it has been over a year and a half since 3 Baltimore firefighters lost their lives on Stricker Street. Lieutenants Paul Buttram, Kelsey Sadler, and paramedic Kenny Lacayo all died fighting a vacant home fire, which some are calling an avoidable tragedy. And tonight, Fox 45 News is sitting down with John McMaster, the lone firefighter who survived that day. He says it has been a long road to recover emotionally, mentally, and physically. Maxine Stricker shares his story.
The day started like any other day for me.
January 24th, 2022.
should have been just another day at work for John McMaster, but now it's a day forever ingrained in his mind.
Took my job from me. I love that job. I love the men and women that I work with the Baltimore City Fire Department.
It's the day his career with the Baltimore City Fire Department came to an end.
I was on leadoff that day, which means that I get the supply line and hook that to the hydrant.
The call came in early in the morning for a 2-alarm fire on Stricker Street.
Kelsey was to my right, Kenny was in front of me.
Once inside the home,
something came down and hit me in the back of the head, and the next thing I know, it started crumbling down on us, trapping us.
McMaster and 3 other firefighters, Lieutenant Paul Buttram, Kelsey Sadler, and Kenny Lacayo,
we just had a collapse. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
couldn't get out.
There was too much weight, too much lumber on us, and so we were trapped. I called out for help. I was calling out my company, Engine 14, Engine 14.
As McMaster's cries for help grew louder, he began to run out of air.
I reached out and I was able to find Kenny's hand. It was pitch black, you couldn't see anything. It was still on fire, so it was still smoky. I tried to reassure Kenny that we were going to be okay. I told him, brother, we're going to be fine. They're going to get us out of here. But you've got to open up this pipe because we are burning up right now. And Kenny did that.
A matter of minutes trapped in the dark felt like hours.
What I tried to remember was, pictures of my families and my friends. I tried to imagine them.
And he says death was at his door.
I thought at that time this was it for me.
But then came a touch.
Eventually I can feel some tugging on my pack, pulling me back.
It was after days at shock trauma.
I was awake and I was still back. I still had a tube in my throat, and when the nurses would come up, I would ask for a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, and I just kept writing 14 with a question mark.
McMaster learned his 3 fellow firefighters didn't make it.
And then you're left knowing that they weren't able to get everybody out. And you feel bad and you feel possibly guilty because they were all such great people.
McMaster was left with injuries, including memory loss, that will last a lifetime.
I have a burn